Hello and welcome to the Gaggle What We Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we today heard that long-standing Italian politician Silvio Berlusconi has died at the age of 86. He was a sort of a Trump before Trump.
Yep.
He was a very successful businessman. He was a very successful real estate developer, a very successful sports personality because he was owner of AC Milan football club, and which became very successful under his ownership. And of course, he was a big media tycoon. He was the owner of the biggest media in Italy. And then suddenly he burst into politics in 1994, having held no governmental positions before. He had never run for anything. He had never held the government. Again, very much like Trump. It came out of nowhere.
He became wonderfully wealthy, and he loved to party.
Exactly. He loved to party, he loved women, and again, like Trump, he tended to shoot his mouth off. He never bothered with the niceties of not offending people. But so obviously he was a colorful figure, and again, as it with the case of Trump, the courts went after him over and over and over again. Till they finally did get him in 2013 with tax fraud.
But they Al Caponed him. They Al Caponed him.
Exactly. Yeah. But since I'd always been on the assumption that everybody in Italy cheats on their taxes, it's like almost like a redundancy that they got.
Well, he was an exceptional guy. Maybe he exceptionally cheated. Who knows?
Maybe. But in terms of his foreign policy, he did support the George W. Bush's war in Iraq. However, he also distanced himself from other aspects of U.S. foreign policy. For instance, he tended to be quite pro-Russian. He had very good relations with Putin through to the present. And Putin issued a very warm tribute to his good friend Berlusconi today.
Didn't his last famous gift to Putin was like a crate of champagne or something like that?
Something like that. And then Putin gave him some vodka for his birthday. And in his most recent pronouncements, he kind of said that this war was really forced upon Putin because of the constant attacks on Russians. He said these were Russians in Ukraine, and Putin couldn't tolerate that forever. So Zelensky has to bear the burden of, for this unnecessary war. This naturally antagonized his party colleague, particularly the Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, whom he obviously detested intensely and said, she's rude, arrogant, condescending, very unpleasant person. So we've lost a colorful figure. What do you think, Peter?
The last great retail politician in Europe, for sure, sure. Okay, Le Pen, great aspirations to being a great retailer, but never really reached it. I don't know really why. She just doesn't have the Midas touch. Right. Silvio had the Midas touch. Oh, right. My goodness. Right. And, I don't mean to be snide here, but he kept us kind of entertained too. I mean, yes. He invented bling before the word bling existed. Okay. Right. Yes. Very flamboyant guy. He loved living, and he never was shy about showing it. He liked good-looking women, was never shy about that either. It's funny, and George brings up a really good point. I mean, they Al Caponed him in the end. I mean, that's a poor man's prosecution in Europe, particularly in Italy. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it was kind of like they struck out, and it's like, all right, we're gonna fall for this one. And he got a reduced sentence. I mean,
he got a reduced on account of old age. Yeah, that's just. But he did have to do some community service and some old people's home. I don't know whether he completed the community service.
I'll be a masseuse. Yeah. I mean, he'd never broke a sweat. Right. But in all fairness, I mean, a brilliant entrepreneur at a very young age. he was very, very successful.
Right.
And he was like a skyscraper. I mean, he went
Right.
from one field after another. Again, the Midas touch. Okay.
Right.
And I don't think he was a particularly great politician. He wasn't good. Like, one of the things that really hurt him was pension reform. Guess what, everyone? No sitting politician does well during pension reform. It is one of the worst possible things you can go through, and he got saddled with it.
Right.
As far as Russia, he was, coming from the world of entrepreneurship. He really, really pushed. And you have to understand how Italy is developed. You have northern Italy and southern Italy. Northern Italy is very industrialized and create really good products. Okay, the stereotypes about Italy don't really apply to the north, maybe a bit to the south. Okay, I mean, particularly when you come into Anglo-Saxon culture with The Godfather and stuff like that. But in northern Italy, it's very different, and it's very industrialized, very well developed. And he saw Russia as a market, and he pounded and pounded away. He actually got, to some degree, what Putin wanted from Germany.
Yes, yes. No, I think it's a very good point. He was already out of power by the time of Crimea. Because he, after his conviction, he was also banned from holding public office for some years. But it was only a limited amount of time. He came back now as a junior partner to Meloni, but he was certainly out of office at the time of Crimea. And he was very critical of the sanctions policy. He thought this was very stupid. And again, he said then, it's hurting us more than it's hurting the Russians. I mean, obviously, it's hurting Italian agriculture because they were exporting agricultural products to Russia, and so that was that market was lost. And then, of course, there was the issue of Libya, because he had worked out a partnership with Gaddafi, whereby they gave Gaddafi, I don't know, whatever it was, 5 million euros, maybe it was more. It's probably million doesn't sound like, probably 5 billion, I don't know. But in return, Gaddafi would control immigration into Europe. That was the deal, and Gaddafi kept to that deal. And Gaddafi visited Italy, and he was toasted, feted, and everything. And then, lo and behold, Obama turned against Gaddafi for reasons, again, was never quite explained, other than there was
Hillary wanted to win.
Exactly. Other than that, it was not clear. By that time, Berlusconi was already out of power, and again, he was very critical of that whole idiotic attack on Italy, which ended the immigration moratorium. And Europe has been suffering since 2011 from this constant flow of migrants. I mean, it's the worst problem now.
What he fixed, Merkel broke. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
In many ways, I want to be a little hesitant here because I need to think a little. I mean, he only died a few hours ago, but I think, maybe I'll posit it to you as just kind of a question. He's kind of one of the last of the pan-European politicians. I mean, he saw the necessity of the European Union. I mean, he didn't push against it,
right?
But he was from a very traditional position of Italy keeping its own sovereignty, but he's a big trading guy. He loved trade. That was Italy's future in his mind. And I don't think he recognized the European Union on his deathbed. I don't think he recognized it all. And I think he was probably a bit distraught about it. Okay. Right. But I mean, in his heyday, I mean, he put Italy on the map. Italy mattered, okay? And people wanted to know what he had to say, even though sometimes it was like, what is he saying now? George started out absolutely right, kind of, predated Trump in many ways.
Yes. No, that's right. He, I think he wanted to have good relations with everybody. I mean, not unlike Russia. I think that's Russia's also stance. Hey, well, let's have good relations with everybody. Why isolate anyone? Why cultivate bad relations with anyone? I think that was Russia's stance for many, many years until things happened, recently. But I think he wanted good relations with the United States. He also wants good relations with Russia. He didn't really see any need for creating these divisions. And I think that world has kind of left him by, and I think he really, I don't think he likes this. He likes this world very much. He certainly didn't like the stance that Maloney was taking, but by now he was already very much a junior partner in this coalition, so he really had little to say on the matter. But given these interviews that he gave, in which he, made clear that this was ridiculous stance to take towards Russia, it was unnecessary, and that he still called Putin his friend. I mean, that went on. He still insists that all the way up to the time of the election last fall, he still insisted on calling Putin his friend.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember where it was. I don't know if it was a bilateral meeting or. Anyway, he was meeting with Putin, and they were taking. There was a press approach, and I don't know if you remember this, but like a fly was in the room, and it was kind of flying around Putin, and Berlusconi went up and like swatted it, like, get away from my friend. And then he gave him Putin a bear hug. Okay. And with that smile that, can melt anything, I mean, he was full of life. Okay. Right. I mean, I'm sure, he could be very, he's a businessman, could be very devious, but he really had a public persona of, a happy warrior.
Right. Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's right. There's a sort of kind of political leaders with whom Putin always got on. I think Berlusconi was one. They also had very good relations. Gerhard Schroeder was another. Netanyahu, I think, maybe not anymore, but Netanyahu was, again, certainly was someone that Putin got on well. I mean, it was people who I think enjoyed life, tended, who smoked cigars and drank whiskey. I think they were very much like Schroeder. They got on well with Putin. Putin doesn't get on well with very kind of prissy,
like Obama.
Like Obama, exactly. You can see from the body language whenever he was with Obama, just how little rapport there was between them.
Well, during the Helsinki summit, the chemistry between Trump and Putin was excellent. You could tell the body language. They felt very confident of themselves in each other's company.
Right. No, that's right. And I think I don't know if you remember when the centenary of the armistice, which was in 2018, everyone was gathered in Paris, and Trump was sitting there looking very glum. He was just sitting there gloomy, and then Putin arrived, and then Trump didn't see him, and Putin leaned over and kind of tapped him on the shoulder. And then Trump looked at him, and his face just brightened. He had been looking so miserable up until that. Just his face just brightened as soon as he saw
collusion. More evidence of collusion.
But I think there's something about Putin that immediately kind of brightened his day.
Well, he was probably the only person in attendance worth talking to.
Exactly, okay? That's right.
George and I have been saying this forever, and I don't say this with glee, okay? But because of the ideological outlook that these people have, they're all the same. They're all interchangeable. They have the same, I was going to say the same sense of humor, but they all lack a sense of humor, a sense of irony. All they have is moral umbrage, where it comes from, I don't know where, okay?
Right. That's right. Exactly.
That's why when Trump was sitting with them, that's why he never felt comfortable with them. You know that famous picture when Trump is sitting and they're all leaning into him. It's just like
Merkel kind of leaning in, and Abe. I think Abe was also kind of very aggressively and he's just sitting there. No, I mean, I think that is right. I mean, I think that surrounded by these non-entities, and maybe. If things could have been different, Berlusconi were younger and were head of the government rather than just a junior partner, rather than Maloney, things might have been different. He might have thrown his weight on behalf of sort of some sensible policy towards Russia. I mean, but it wasn't to be. It's unfortunate that we were kind of saddled with Maloney, who was just eager to show how much she really cared about Ursula von der Leyen and how ready she was to do whatever Ursula von der Leyen wanted.
Yeah. Well, it's an end of an era. I have fond thoughts of him. Okay, I do. I mean, being sitting on the news set and having to have to cover him, and talk about and what you inevitably end up doing is telling stories about him. Okay,
right.
I mean, what stories do you want to talk about with Macron?
No, you don't want anything. No. Except other than his weird relationship, I guess, with his wife. But I mean, that's about it.
Yeah, or his mother, or whoever it is.
Whoever that is, yeah, exactly.
Whoever that is.
Yes.
But it's the end. It's the end of retail politics in Europe. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Orban. Forgive me. No, he's very good at that. Okay, but I mean of the old school in that way. Okay, and he was a self-made man. He got into media because he got sick and tired of the media saying bad things for him, so he bought it. That's right. That's our guy. Okay.
But and all these legal issues, I mean, which itself was fascinating because then tried on corruption. He beat the rap time and again, and then there was the sort of the underage prostitute. They thought, well, they've got him now. Again, he beat the rap on that.
Well, she admitted nothing happened. I mean,
exactly. That's right. Yeah, exactly. And then finally, sort of the tax fraud. I mean, the most ubiquitous charge possible. But okay, we've got him. But it is a remarkable thing of year in year out how much money he must have spent on lawyers. With this wave after wave of charges and continually beating the rap.
Very good dress code. Yes. I really like those snappy Italian suits on him. I remember there was some kind of deranged guy that hit him with a hammer. I don't know if you remember this, and it knocked out some. It knocked out some. I'm remembering for a good reason. It knocked out some of his teeth. And what he did was, he had, security around him and all that. But he got from one of the security guys, because it was in the evening, and he grabbed a flashlight and he turned it on and he flashed it into his face, and he showed his determination, even though he had blood all over him. And it was, and I was asked, I said, what is that? I said, that's very Roman. That's Roman.
Right.
Okay. I've been hit, but I'm not down. Okay. And this guy here, he actually forgave the guy for doing it. It was just deranged.
Yes.
He'd say, forget it. I got money. I'll fix my teeth. Okay. Right. It's just a very different kind of character. I mean, if someone hit Macron with a shoe, oh my God, he'd probably be bawling his head off.
He probably would be. But he also transformed Italian politics. Remember, up until 1994, I mean, Italian politics had been dominated by the Christian Democratic Party. I mean, everyone thought that they'll be there forever. You had the Christian Democratic Party on the kind of center right. And then you had these variety of parties on the center left. There was a kind of the Craxis party, and then there was the other parties, and of course there was the Communist Party. And he just completely shook it up. Suddenly there was his party, Forza Italia, became the dominant party. And whatever happened to the Christian Democratic Party? It seemed like it was going to be there forever with Andreotti, the permanent Italian prime minister. So whatever the time of day, Andreotti's in the government.
It really kind of foreshadowed the breakup of the traditional left and right, in which we still stupidly talk about. Okay, yeah. But we have to keep in mind too that he served as prime minister of Italy longer than any other post-war prime minister. As someone pointed out to me earlier today, only Benito Mussolini served longer.
Right. Yeah.
That was a fair comparison, but anyway.
Yeah, there was another guy. There was Mussolini and some other guy, but long ago, before Mussolini. But of course, it wasn't consecutively. I mean, he didn't serve, so it was broken up by, the Italian changes of government. But altogether, how many years he served as prime minister? It's longer than anyone else.
You remember, the up until he came to power, the lifespan of a government was less than a year.
Right.
Okay. And then he came in, and as George said, just toppled the apple cart, as it were. And then there was a sense of continuity. Okay, right. I think Italians are, irrespective of your political stripe, I mean, he was one of them, he, again, a Trumpian figure, unbelievably wealthy, but he could get the masses to vote for him. Okay.
Yes.
He was a class traitor and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Right.
So, I'm going to have a beer tonight and remembering our good friend here, because, there's not another one like him. Okay. Not at all. Not even close.
Yes. No, I think that's right. I mean, so yeah, it's the passing of a major European figure. I think, when anyone, a current bunch leaves, I don't think anyone's going to notice. I mean, like the Finn chick, someone's going to notice the departure of the Finn chick, or Annalena Baerbock. I mean, is anyone going to notice her? Or Macron? I mean, some point Macron's going to go. I mean, his term of office is going to expire, term limits in France, and he'll go and make a lot of money. But when he leaves the scene, no one's going to notice.
And then Sergeant Schultz will be, bartending someplace in Munich, for all we know. Okay, no one will remember him at all. Okay.
No.
All right, a passage of a great European, one of the probably the last of his kind, last of his breed, end of an era, and again, someone that was such a good retail politician, which I really like, which he is scarce in the West in general. Okay, right. Trump is still doing it, but he has that one commonality: lawfare against him. Okay. All right, everybody, this is Peter and George. We are The Gaggle. We're on Locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. And please visit our store. And today is Monday, which means within 24 hours, George will be having his live stream.
Exactly. Time for my live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Locals. Please join me. Come with comments, criticisms, and suggestions. And on the way out the door, think about little buddy, because he says, I'm not exiting anywhere. I'm staying put. And I want to see some action immediately with the tip jar. So, given that he's laying the law down, we need to do something about that tip jar. So if you have a few bob in your pocket, whip them out, dunk them in the tip jar. Then that'll cool him down a little bit. We're very grateful for all of your help and friendship and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the quality. And above all, we will keep Buddy focused. So remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.